What's up YouTube? Houston here. For those of you just finding my YouTube channel, welcome. Please remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell. And for those of you that's been following me and supporting me, salute. And for my favorite patrons, always double salute. Now, today's video, we're actually going to be talking about why trade lines are being shut down and not authorized users, okay? And I know for a lot of people, they're starting to go into panic mode, but I'll tell you, don't panic. I'm going to show you some things that you can do that can help you, even if your trade lines are being shut down, but it's really going to give you more of a leveraging tool, okay? So don't panic. I got you. Now, here's the thing I want to do for the community. I know that a lot of our community are still struggling because of COVID. Our elderly are needing to pay bills, inflation, food prices going up and everything. And so trying to find that extra dollar because of gas prices or, like I said, food prices and stuff, trying to find that extra dollar, you know, to keep food on the table. I would definitely tell you to check out some of these resources. You got unclaimed.org for free money. You got missingmoney.com, class action lawsuits you can check out. If you have kids, especially like the single fathers out there and stuff, because a lot of people don't think, oh, the single fathers don't need help. Single men need help too, especially if they have a child and stuff like that. So you can look at the Child Care and Development Fund as well. You got a low income home energy assistance. You still got the rent program that's out there helping people pay their rent and everything. You also can go to places like USA.gov, 311.org, or 211.org. Okay, so you can get some type of financial assistance, some type of help. We don't want to see our community struggling, okay? So it's just a public service announcement for you guys before we jump into the video, because I know it's hard out there and I don't want to overlook anybody, right? Now, that being said, let's talk about these trade lines that's being shut down, okay? So you have in Hunting & Chase, Ox Publishing, New Coast Direct, drinkskill.com. You have Shop Simplio, AG Jewelers, My Jewelers Club. Man, and so here's the thing about it. Why is this happening? Why are these trade lines being shut down? Okay, so here's the thing about it. All right, these companies were posting as if they was actual retail businesses. All right, and so you would pay maybe like a small monthly fee. It probably would have gave them more leverage if they was actually charging a monthly fee instead of just a one-time annual fee or whatever for $1,000 trade line or $5,000 or $10,000 trade line, things of that nature, right? And because of this, the credit bureau is like, well, you're not an actual retail business. And because they actually proved that they're not an actual retail business, they're like, well, we're going to shut you down. Okay? And so what that means is that they didn't actually shut the business down, but what they end up doing is that they no longer can report to those credit bureaus. Now, here's the thing about it. The major credit bureaus are not the only credit bureaus out there. However, those are the ones that are affecting the most. Now, you got the third-party credit bureaus, but the major credit bureaus own those as well. Okay? So that's the reason, like with some people that are going into panic and stuff, but understanding that because these companies was posing as actual retail companies or whatever, and they wasn't actually doing that type of retail business, you know, the credit bureaus looked back at it and said, we don't want you to use our services anymore. Now, another thing a lot of people don't talk about, but I'm going to share with you, when people create these fake Social Security numbers, okay, they call them a CPN, credit privacy numbers. So when they create these privacy numbers, they would go to those companies and they would add trade lines and stuff. Once they add the trade lines, then as a primary trade line, they would start, they would end up applying for credit cards and lines of credit and getting approved and everything. So with the credit bureaus, they're looking at this, well, we need to figure out a way to stop this fraud or whatever. So that's what's happening. Those are some of the options. There may be more, but I'm just giving you the most logical and what's actually happening that I know. Okay? And so if you got a CPN, man, I'm telling you, you need to shut it down. Get away from that thing. I'm telling you, you're playing a very dangerous game. Okay? You're playing a very dangerous game, and it definitely can catch up with you. So I would definitely tell you to get away from that. Now, in terms of when they shutting down your $5,000 trade line that you had on your credit file, your $10,000 trade line, if they're the ones shutting it down, question is, does it affect your credit? Well, in terms of, depending on how long it's been on, like with the lenders, they may look at that as a high trade line. It may have been calculated because it may have had some age on it or something like that. But for the most part, it's not going to affect your credit that much. You just have a thinner credit file. But at the same time, there's other things you can do. Like, because of a lot of new fintech companies out there and stuff like that, you can get large lines of credit with nothing on the credit file. So in terms of having that interruption happening, where you lose those trade lines, that doesn't mean you won't be able to get access to large lines of credit from financial institutions. Maybe the major financial institutions that pull FICO 8 would probably be some of the ones that, the ones that pull from FICO 8, they may give you some challenges, but not the FICO 9s or the fintech companies, because again, they're focusing on other data points, okay, which makes it much easier for you to get higher lines of credit and everything. And so I'm going to just throw out there a few strategies that may help you leverage that as well. Now, here's the thing about it, all right? Focusing on your FICO 9 credit score, okay? Not your FICO 8, but your FICO 9 credit score. And this also could impact your FICO 8 credit score as well. But like if you have subscriptions, monthly subscriptions, paying car insurance and things of that nature, like Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, those type of trade lines would show up on it. Experian, Boost as well. So you have things that you can add to your credit file to help thicken up your file. You have pledge loans, you have starter loans, credit builder loans. So you have those type of things that would help build up your credit file as well to help you get access to more funding. So even though, again, those trade lines shut down, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to get access to funding, okay? Because there's multiple ways to keep on building your credit to get larger lines of credit, especially if you have good income, low DTI, okay? So we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. Also, keeping your inquiries to a minimum. I always tell people your danger zone, when you get over 8 inquiries and stuff, now you're in that danger zone. So removing inquiries, fastest way to remove some inquiries, like you sign up for a Credit Karma account, and then with your Credit Karma account, you dispute some inquiries. Sometimes they can come off in 24 hours, or the Experian account and dispute something that can get them off in 24 hours as well. All right. Sometimes you may have to, with TransUnion and Equifax, sometimes they may be a little more challenging. Then you have to send in your ID, proof of residence, disputing those inquiries in order to get them removed. Okay. Now, again, authorized users. Only time authorized users are shut down is like through the financial institution themselves. Okay, and a lot of time when a financial institution is shutting down an authorized user, maybe the authorized user has been recycled so many times, or they see that, okay, you have this card, but you're just using it for authorized user. You're not actually using a card. So they'll shut it down because of that. So in terms of preventing, and they've been used to add authorized users to CPN files as well and stuff. Again, to mess with the algorithm of the computer system to boost up the credit score. All right. And so like right now with a lot of lenders, they're wanting to see credit files like at least 2 years old, right? For a lot of lenders. That's the reason I tell you guys is I would focus on the fintech companies. They work with new credit files. So if you're trying to get larger lines of credit and stuff like that, your best bet is definitely the fintech companies. And again, like I said, we're going to talk about those. Now, in terms of like positive paying history, positive trade lines and stuff, if you use your debit card a lot and stuff, you can use the extra debit card app or the One Financial. Sign up with either of those, and they'll report all your debit card transactions. All right. With the extra, they report it to Experian and Equifax. Okay. So in terms of like having to get positive trade lines on the credit file and things of that nature, in reference to having rental. Now here's a secret. I don't usually tell people, but if you're paying rent with a money order or cash, I would definitely tell you stop that. Okay, and here's the reason why. Because if you're doing that, you're missing out on the opportunity to get qualified for a FHA mortgage or a conventional mortgage because you're not having that data actually reported on your credit file to show proof that, hey, because rents are high now, and you can afford to pay $1,000 mortgage, or you can afford to pay a $2,000 mortgage, But the thing about it is because you don't have no actual documentation that actually proves that, right? So that being said, you want to look at places that actually do report. And here's the thing about it. If you're paying cash or money order, I would tell you if you can open up a secured credit card, put the money on a secured credit card, then go over to a place like Plastic, PLASTIQ.com, and I would sign up for them. Yes, they do charge a fee, unfortunately. However, what it is that you can put your credit card on there and make your rent payments through there. Then you can have one of these companies report that on your credit file. So one of the good things about it with these here companies, they report your rent payments, but at the same time, say that you've been there for 5 years. It'll definitely stay on there. You've been there for 5 years because they'll report 2 years of history, right? So that's what most lenders want to see, your oldest account with at least 2 years of history on it anyway. So that's another reason, like I said, with those trade lines being shut down, there's other ways in order for to help you get funding. All right, so that's the reason why I encourage you guys to do it this way. Now, that being said, what's happening, just like with a Navy Federal, I talk about internal scoring, building up the relationship, having a direct deposit, having multiple accounts with a financial institution helps your internal score. Also, the history with your major financial institutions and stuff like that. So your internal score is going to be more important. It's going to start to show up more important than just your regular credit score. So like, especially with like Navy Federal setting the example that, hey, you may have a bad credit score, but you have multiple accounts with us. You do business with us. So we're willing to be able to give you a $25,000 credit card, even though you have a 530 credit score. Right? So that's the reason this internal scoring for a lot of financial institutions, this is going to play a role in terms of helping you get larger lines of credit. So those trade lines that were shut down or whatever, again, I wouldn't sweat it. I would just keep moving forward and start looking at focusing on building an actual relationship with the financial institution. That's going to give you the biggest leverage, even if you have challenging credit, okay? Now, talking about loans, large loans, without actually focusing on the credit. They focus on your job, how long you've been on your job, how long you've been at your residence, what's your debt to income ratio. So these are some of the lenders that you may want to reach out to. You have credit loans. Now here's another thing that you may want to consider. Say that you credit loans gives you a $10,000 to $15,000 loan. Now, granted, I must be transparent. More likely, these type of loans, they're going to charge you a higher interest rate, right? But if you're an individual that's trying to build up your credit, just say that they give you $15,000, right? You take $10,000 of that, $10,000 of that loan, then you put it on like a card like this, or $5,000 or $10,000, put it on a card like this. This is the SABLE credit card, right? And so the good thing about it is it turns into an unsecured card after 4 months. So you don't have to wait a whole 6 months. The good thing about Navy Federal, you can have $200 and after 6 months it turns into $2,000. But if you want larger lines of primaries to show up and everything, then these are the type of companies you want to look at. Sable one credit card, like I said, you can do 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, being the max or whatever. But the good thing about this, so that you can understand this, you don't have to have no credit history. Okay, so they don't do a credit check. You don't have to have a social. So these are the things that, guys, that's changing the banking system. You're going to have more people looking at more of these fintech companies, because not only are they going to give them larger lines of credit, but they're helping them rebuild their credit as well. With the financial institutions, they're still becoming very strict in terms of who they decide they want to do business with, right? So that's the reason you want to look at companies like this. Like I said, you get a loan from credit loans, $15,000. They was to put $5,000 on here, and then after 4 months, that $5,000 becomes a statement credit. But now your situation is that you actually have a nice primary on there. Granted, it's not aged, but I just told you how to actually age your credit file as well. And again, with a lot of these institutions, again, looking at the fintech, they're not worried about the aging. They're more or less worried about your job history, how long you've been at your residence, your education level. That's what they're focused on. Now, a company, again, that I was just telling you about, it's not really about the credit score. Granted, they'll pull your FICO 9, so they'll do a soft pull on FICO 9, but you have an upgrade. Their loans go from 500 up to 50,000. Average annual income to have to qualify is 78,000. Does that mean that you actually have to be making 70,000 yourself? No. They're looking at the average household income. Okay, so you are married, you have a spouse, they have an income, you have an income. That's what you put on the application. Okay, letting them know that I'm not the only one that's responsible for my household income. So those are the things that play a bigger factor. Even like, just think of it when you file your taxes. Okay, so when you file your taxes, you may look at your spouse, and you may be filing married, right? So that's how you have to look at the application as well. Or you may be an individual that's disabled or retired, but you're renting out a room and you get an income from that. Include that income on the application, because that's income that's actually contributing to your income. So that's the reason how you get the larger lines of credit. So even if you have a low credit score and you have even though you may have a low credit score, but you have a good income, you get the higher limits of credit. The good thing about Upgrade is their DTI is 75%. So you can have a high debt to income ratio and still be approved. The unfortunate thing, like I said, is Colorado, Idaho, New York, Vermont, Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming, they're not operating in those states, but that's okay, because you can go to Upstart, they operate all over the United States. Again, not focusing on the credit score, they're focusing on the job history, the length you've been at your address, your DTI, and so their criteria is definitely one of those that's very flexible to help you qualify for a loan. So even without those primaries being added to the credit file, you would still be able to get large lines of credit. Okay, so leveraging your FICO 9, and so as you continue making good payment history through these accounts, that rolls over to your FICO 8 to where you start getting the larger lines of credit with your FICO 8. You just have to backdoor it. One of the things that I tell people is sometimes, just making sure that you know how to make the money work for you. So say that they give you maybe a $25,000 loan. You take 15 of that amount. You go to the car auction and buy a car. Put it on Toro, right? You can or you can set up a business account and then take 15 of the thousand, put it in a business account. Purchase a car, put the car on Toro, all the payments you make from Toro paid to the business account. So now you have revenue coming back, and then you start making your monthly payment back to this. Now you're starting to build up the business credit, so that way you start transitioning over to business funding with the business credit cards and things of that nature, so that you have more leverage. Now, again, Navy Federal, here's the key that I always tell people. When you're going with Navy Federal, good thing about it, they full TransUnion FICO 9, but the awesome thing about it with Navy Federal, I would tell you to go for their green cash rewards card, it's Visa Signature, because it usually starts at about $5,000. Okay, so if you have bad credit, then you want to use those data points. I would tell you still use those data points even if you don't have bad credit. If you can have great credit, use those data points, so off the bat you can get $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 credit cards even if you have a brand new credit file. So you don't have to have those primary trade lines from those other companies. If they get shut down by the credit bureaus, you don't care, because you can always build that relationship up with the bank and still get the money, because that's your whole purpose. At the end of the day, you want to be able to make sure you have a strong enough relationship with a financial institution where they're actually giving you the money you need, right? Now, again, you have ALLIANT Credit Union. Now, the good thing about them, they do one hard pull, and that one hard pull you can use for multiple credit cards within a 30 to 45 day period, right? And they pull your TransUnion Vantage 3. So that's the cool part about it. It's like where most people figure that, hey, I lost these here primary trade lines. What am I going to do now? I can't get any large lines of funding. That's not true. A lot of your credit unions, again, if you have those data metrics, having open accounts with them for a long history of time, they're more flexible. Even with American Express, people have been with American Express a long time, and their credit score may drop to like the low 600s, and they still give them credit cards and stuff like that. So don't think that because you lost those primary trade lines from those other accounts that you can't get the money. And again, these cards here with ALLIANT averaging starting at about 5,000. Okay. Now you have state employees credit union. Again, one of these situations, you get a hard pull 30 days, but you can use that to get up to maybe about 3-4 products. So you may get a credit card, a line of credit, a loan, a checking line of credit. So being able to leverage it, and again, limiting, going for the Visa signature cards, starting at about 5,000 as well. So now that you see that even though a financial bank, excuse me, not a bank, but the credit bureaus won't report those trade lines that was shutting down or whatever, that doesn't mean that you have to only live your life around those. There's other avenues to make sure that even though you lost those trade lines, you still can get larger amounts of money from other financial institutions, even if you have a thin credit file, but you having a good a low debt to income ratio, or just having a good income, and you have a good consistency on your job. Those are the things that make the difference in terms of giving you the maximum amount of funding. Now, if you have any questions about business credit, personal credit, business credit funding, personal credit funding, I'll encourage you to click the link in the description and schedule a one-on-one consultation. Thank you.